Backshots or the Superglide V2?
I will have to pass on the backshots. The Superglide V2 is an excellent new release that can easily be labeled as the new glass pad king. It offers high speed, excellent stopping power, and a very stock skate-friendly surface. It truly is an upgrade from the V1.
After being hands-on with the Superglide V2 with over a week, I can safely say that this is absolutely the new glass pad king, which I will cover in the rest of this video. The pad comes in large, which is 420 by 330 millimeters for 85 USD, and extra large in 490 by 420 millimeters for 95 USD. Compared to the rest of the high-end glass pads that we're seeing in the market, this is absolutely a very competitive price. It comes in a tastefully done Supreme-esque design in red, which is what I got, as well as solid white and black colors. Honestly, it's nice seeing these designs because so many of the newer releases have been straight up goon pads. I'm really not a fan of that. So let's talk dimensions, because I really wanted to highlight how the Superglide V2 is what I believe to be the thinnest glass pad that's on the market right now. If we look here versus the SkyPad 4, we can see the obvious girth disparity here. Dragging my arm while the Superglide is away from the edge of my desk, I notice little to no tug on my forearm as I play versus the SkyPad, where I definitely do notice that tug. The thinness offsets the fact that this pad isn't 500 by 500 millimeters, which is definitely my preferred size considering that I'm a low sense arm aimer. It's really hard to find 500 by 500 glass pads right now, aside from like the Kazemi, but that's limited time. So I think having this thin sizing fixes that issue of space by allowing you to move that mouse pad a bit more up on your table and lets you really utilize that Y-axis more, which is definitely needed for tracking based, video games. Now, looking at the base here, holy moly is that thing sticky. As you can see in comparison to the wall hack base, the Superglide has a different texture to it. Both of these glass pads do have a silicone base to them, but the Superglide has a way more stickier surface in the base versus the wall hack, which you can see in the comparisons here with the pressure test to move both of them. It just looks like the silicone composition is just much better on the Superglide V2. Alright, so before we cover the performance review of this pad, I just really want to break down some of the terminologies that I'm going to be using in that performance review. And yes, what you can see on your screen right now is me using the Superglide V2 without a sleeve, and it's literally gliding beautifully and perfectly. That is because that I am in a very cool environment, aka my room, got the air conditioner on, everything is smooth, there's no humidity at all, and that really allows me to use it without a sleeve. And I just want to say that's one of the really big pluses here. If you don't live in a humid climate, you can absolutely use this without a sleeve, and it literally will not impact your performance at all. So anyway, let's get right into some of the breakdowns I'm going to be doing, which is going to be static friction and dynamic friction. So, because I'm going to be using that a lot when I'm describing this pad in the performance section of this review. Okay, so for this example of static and dynamic friction, we're going to be using Jerry here. Jerry has a 3950 up its ass, so it's extremely fast, has very low click latency, and is very cute. So Jerry is going to come right here on the Superglide V2. So first, static friction. What is static friction? Static friction basically just means how fast are your flicks. If your mouse is not moving, say you're holding an angle or something like that, and somebody comes out, boom, you pop them, right? That movement right there, that flick is static friction. How much friction is there moving from point A to point B when it wasn't moving originally? That is all. And the lower the friction, that means the easier the flicks and the faster the glide in those flicks. Now for dynamic friction, say that you're playing Overwatch and you are trying to shoot at a Mercy that's flying around like crazy, on the enemy team, and you're trying to swat her out, So your mouse is going to be doing a whole lot of this. It's going to be doing figure eights. It's going to be moving, tracking, moving, boom, And this movement, this constant state of motion is called dynamic friction, Basically, how much friction is there when your mouse is consistently moving, tracking, so on and so forth. And the lower this friction, that means the smoother your tracking is going to be, and also the faster your tracking is going to be. And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is the description of both frictions. Now let's talk performance. Honestly, I was really disappointed with the Superglide V1. It felt weirdly sticky out of the box, and there was more static and dynamic friction than advertised. Overall, it really didn't feel like a speedy pad. I'm happy to say this was all fixed in the Superglide V2. Right out of the box, the glide is smooth, quick, and consistent, and did not feel sticky at all like my V1 did. The V1 felt like I was walking through the aftermath of a Diddy party. All jokes aside, what surprised me the most was how stock skate friendly this pad was. This was the first glass pad where I didn't feel the need to install aftermarket skates just to get the speed and performance that I wanted to. Right out of the box, all of my mice that had stock skates installed on them, which were PTFE, just performed wonderfully. I have a Pulsar X-Lite V3 ES with stock skates installed, and I'm going to go ahead and just throw up a glide test on my screen for y'all. As you can see here, all it took was a little bit of tilting for my X-Lite to glide across the Superglide beautifully. And then we look at the SkyPad 4.0 here, it definitely took a bit more effort for it to even get it to start gliding and getting it across that pad. Honestly, after conducting that test, it's very safe to assume that you do not need aftermarket skates like J Dots to get the Superglide V2 to perform in that speedy fashion that it was advertised for. But on the other hand, the SkyPad 4.0, it's an absolute must to have aftermarket J Dots or something speedy like that to get the advertised performance. The static friction on the Superglide is very low, and even if you're applying pressure on your mouse while it's moving on the pad, it won't wiggle around. There's just enough stopping power where it doesn't hinder your flicking ability and allows you to stop on a dime. If you're a low sense aimer and want to get into glass pads and play TAC FPS like Valorant or Counter-Strike, this is absolutely a usable pad for those games. On the other hand, the dynamic friction is very fast, and arguably just as fast, if not faster, than the SkyPad 4. You'll have no issues with speedy movements and essentially zero tug when you're making those micro adjustments on this pad. If you're a low sense aimer, this pad will be amazing for you because of that lack of tug when you're doing those micro adjustments and small tracking. Because of that smooth texture on the Superglide, your horizontal and vertical tracking and movement will be identical. Playing games like Overwatch, the finals, and Fortnite, where there's a lot of vertical and horizontal tracking, will be no issue here. So who do I recommend this glass pad to? If you play tracking games like Overwatch, the finals, and Fortnite, I highly recommend this due to the low static and dynamic friction the Superglide V2 provides. If you don't want to use a sleeve while using a glass pad, and you also don't live in a humid climate, so you live in a very cool climate, I highly recommend this glass pad to you because you do not need to use a sleeve. If you're just looking for an overall speed pad, cloth, or glass, I highly recommend the Superglide V2. It's, in my opinion, the fastest glass pad that's currently on the market aside from the SkyPad 4. If you hate depending on aftermarket skates just to get the performance that you want out of a glass pad, then I highly recommend the Superglide V2. It's extremely stock skate friendly. You do not need aftermarket skates at all to get the fullest performance out of this. Honestly, I don't recommend this pad for high sensitivity players who only play TAC FPS. You really won't get that exact control that you're looking for, especially if you play flicking only games like Valorant and Counter-Strike. I also cannot recommend this to people who live in a humid environment and do not want to use an arm sleeve. It's an absolute must in these types of climates, especially since your skin is going to be sticking to that mouse pad when you're going to be sweating. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. I honestly do believe that Pulsar cooked with the Superglide V2. You could really tell that they took all the information on glass pads and what there is in the market, applied that to their Superglide V2 iteration, and even made it better than most of the competitors in the space. I honestly think it's a testament to how much Pulsar really listens to their consumers and actually looks at what's available in this space. As much shit Pulsar gets from their other shortcomings like their sticky clicks on their X2 series, I definitely do believe that they deserve the flowers that they got for this iteration of the Superglide V2 because they did such a great job creating something that's accessible to both hardcore niche consumers and then also entry-level customers where this may be their first sort of glass pad.